Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, September 29th, 2022, about 9 o'clock in the morning. And this is that last pasture of the row. And what you're looking at here, this is Bermuda grass. I'm almost positive it's Bermuda grass. It's probably a foot deep, maybe a foot and a half deep in some places. This is nice. I don't know if it's enough to feed all the cows, but there's lots of it. Lots and lots of it. And then in between the Bermuda grass, there is some of this panic liver seed grass. There's some spots where not much is growing. So this is one of those areas where last year not much grew at all. This year I'm getting a ton of grass. I did get a ton of grass here in the spring too, but last year there just wasn't very much here. I use these woods for shelter in the summer. So I give them the trees, or at least allow them to come to the trees to get some shelter when it's like over 95 and in the hundreds and stuff. I also use this in the winter. If there's freezing rain, the cows like to come under the trees. I think it also helps get them out of the wind a little bit to preserve some of their body temperature. If you're wondering, no, cows do fine. They are fine in the cold. As long as they can stay dry, they do perfectly fine. But even when they're wet, they do pretty good, you know. They do burn more calories in the cold. And so if you're trying to limit how much they eat, then you might want to do something about keeping them in a warm, dry space. But the problem is the manure piles up, and then it becomes a bad environment for the cows. So yeah, we got some more of this Bermuda grass over on just south of here in the next row. The problem is that first section of this pasture on the far west side is pretty much dead. I had a commenter ask, like, hey, are you gonna do something about like seeding grass or doing something or putting something in the soil? There is some stuff that I'm interested in trying. One is that mixture. There's a way to create, using local bacteria and fungus, to create like a cocktail that you spray on the ground. The problem with that method is I'm not willing to invest that much resources into the grass quite yet. The other question, why don't I seed anything? Well, one of the problems that I have is I don't really know what I have, and I don't know what works best in this area. So I wanted nature to sort it out. This is not a pasture that's been untouched. I'm not the first person on planet Earth to come here and try to work this soil. Somebody before me has done lots of things to the soil. In fact, when I first got this land, I was kind of excited because I had ryegrass up to the armpits. But looking at the soil underneath, it was clear that that was all that I had. He's basically, the person before me killed everything else. And so we just had the ryegrass. And I don't know if there was like Bermuda grass lying in wait, right, waiting for the ryegrass to disappear, or what the story was there. But the point is that there's already stuff in this field. Even though they tried to kill everything, there's stuff that survives, and I wanted to see what comes out naturally. Part of the process of doing this regenerative agriculture is not trying to force nature's hand. Nature knows what it's doing better than I do. She's been around a little bit longer than I have. I've been doing this for about a year. She's had at least several thousand years to do this. So, like, you see things like this, like these berry bushes. Why are they growing here, right? Well, we know that berry bushes do well in acid soil. One thing I can do is say, well, I don't want berry bushes, so I'm going to try to make the soil less acidic. The other thing to realize about plants is they tend to destroy their environment. So the conditions that make them grow well are changed when they start to grow, right? And so if I were to let these berry bushes grow naturally, eventually something else would come along and take over, because they would change the soil where it was no longer optimum for them. That's true for most of the plant species, right? And so if you're a farmer and you do the monoculture thing, you're going to note that if you create ideal situations for your crop, after your crop is grown, the ground is no longer ideal for that crop. You have to plant something else, or you have to change the soil to make it ideal for that plant again. And so what nature's doing is she's sending out these other plants to try to fix the soil and change it and repair it. I didn't want to get in the way of that process too much. I think there's plenty out here already. I didn't pick a pasture that was dead to begin with. I kind of want to see what's going to happen over the next couple of years. And that's one thing that, you know, Greg Judy's advice is you can't just start rotating and expect, you know, miracles the first year. The pastures that he has that are beautiful and green, that took years to get that way. And I think he said it took like 5 or 6 years for his first really big successful result. He had to spend a lot of time and effort to get to that point. And then even then, he's still learning about how to keep it. You know, not everything goes his way all the time. So that's mostly what I'm doing here is I'm learning. I'm watching. I'm documenting. I'm only trying small things. The biggest thing I did was I put lime in the soil. And the reason why I did that is because that's what Greg Judy does, right? So I'm basically copying him. The soil report came back and said, yeah, you have acidic soil, just slightly acidic. I did want to plant some clovers because I noticed I didn't have any clovers in the field. And to me, that was a sign that, you know, the soil's been mucked with. So I wanted to go get some legumes. And so I looked up for seeds for legumes. Ideally, I wanted to try the Korean Lespedeza, but I don't know if I can even get that around here. But I did crimson clover, and I did, oh gosh, I can't remember now, hairy vetch, right? And for both of those seeds, they said, hey, if your soil is too acidic, and they gave certain numbers, these seeds won't do well, right? Well, it turns out it was too acidic for those seeds. It was just on the over the border. So I said, I'll go get some lime, you know, because what's lime going to do? It's going to make it less acidic, right? And if I'm not fertilizing, it shouldn't go back to acidic. It should stay less acidic. It's when you put the chemicals in the soil, the nitrogen, that it causes the soil to turn acidic. So that's what I'm trying to do, is I just want to see what happens naturally. So one thing I did look at yesterday as I was mowing the goat weed, oh man, it takes forever to mow 60 acres. So they were here 3.5 days ago. This is what it looks like after a week, after a half week, right? And the grass is recovering quite nicely. It's cold right now. It's actually like 60 degrees outside. It got cold last night. I don't think it got below 50, but it did get cold. We're almost at the point where we have to turn the heater on in the house because we're not used to it being below 80 inside the house. So yeah, so you can see here, there's a little bit of grass there. Obviously this part isn't very good. There's stuff growing, just not very much. And then we go back another week, or to another 3.5 days to a full week. And these were long pastures. I gave them 250 feet last week. This is pretty dead here. There's some things growing. You can see stuff like this growing, which is hopeful. I don't know what that is. You can't really tell what a grass is by when it first sprouts. You have to let it grow a little bit. Sometimes you have to let it go to full seed before you know what it is. Anyway, look at this. You can see these manure patties dried out. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see wet patties after a week. Right, here we go. Look at this. I was going across this piece of grass here. This is probably a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And my biggest concern mowing the goat weed is that I have some places that are just beautiful, right? Look at this, is almost as thick as that pasture I just moved them onto. I think this is Bermuda grass as well. I'm pretty sure it is. Right? This is a beautiful little place here. I'm pretty sure this is where I put the hay down. I could be wrong. But I watched that hay sit on the ground for like almost the whole year. And I was like, oh, the hay is killing the grass. The hay's killing the grass. And then the hay disappeared. Well, it got burned. But I'm left with these places like this where it's just beautiful grass. And then we got all this Indian grass, what I'm calling Indian grass. I don't know what it's called. I tried looking it up. The internet doesn't know what it is either. I'm sure someone out there knows what it is. All the grasses look alike. That's the problem. Anyway, so we're going back in time now, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We got these weeds, right? I didn't see these weeds last year. They're new. That means the soil's changing. It's a good thing, right? You can hear the ducks and the geese. Remember when I was with the ducks and the geese? Anyway, this grass here, right? It's not great. Hasn't grown back, but it's still green. And green grass is a sign that it's growing, right? Now, it's cold enough that I think the warm season grasses are done. So if this is Bermuda grass, which I think it is, it's not going to grow. You're not going to see any growth here until like May. So this is done. But this was a burned field. This was charcoal. It was ash. You can kind of see the edge of the goat weed that I've been trimming, you know. But now look at it, right? I think this is a milkweed. Let's see. The reason why they call it milkweed. Yeah, you see that? It has this milky sap. You know, that's why it's called milkweed. I could be wrong. But yeah, we're getting different plants growing than I saw last year. This is 1 year of rotational grazing. I've been through this place probably 4 or 5 times over the course of that last year. And I do think the field's getting better, even though we're in a severe drought, and we're still in a drought. That 5 inches of rain was a godsend. But you know, I can't complain. I don't know what I could have done better. If I sprayed something down or put some seed in, would it have made a difference? Probably not, because it takes time for those things to really take effect. Will I try it in the future? Absolutely. If I had 1,000 acres, if I was grazing 1,000 acres, I would definitely start doing experiments like that. But with just the 60 acres, I kind of want to see what nature does. I kind of want to learn how to interpret what she's doing. I don't really want to force her to do anything quite yet. You know, maybe gentle nudges here and there. But, you know, I'm a patient guy. I'm not like, oh, I have to make a profit or I'm going to be out of business next year. No. If I was in that kind of situation, I would not be doing this, right? I'd be doing something else that was more, I have a regular job that had a paycheck and health care. You know what I mean? So, you know, got to have patience. It's going to be 5 years. And my goal after 5 years is to have something that looks like Greg Judy's land. And if I don't, then I'll be making drastic changes. You know, then I'll probably be bringing in the bioculture people and spray the fields with their cocktail made from, you know, local stuff. Then I might be looking at putting in a new breed of grass or something that I haven't seen here before. But if there is a breed of grass that does well, shouldn't it take over my field? Like in that dead part, if there's a grass that would do well in that condition, shouldn't it take it over? If there's one seed of grass that would do well there, it would thrive, make plenty of more seeds, and spread itself out over time, right? So that's kind of what I'm gambling on, is the stuff that doesn't do well will go away and the stuff that does well will stay. And I have to do the same thing with my cattle herd. You know, the cows that do well stay, the cows that don't go, you know. And I do have to find the right balance of cows and grasses and everything, and my lifestyle too, right? If I need to make a dramatic change in my lifestyle, I can't do that, you know. So nature has to work with me as well. You know, obviously I'm willing to bend and stretch here, but you know, if it requires 7 hours of work a day and expensive machinery, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, it's kind of my opinion on things. So, yeah, I'm just watching and documenting. I hope somebody gets some use out of this, not because I'm telling you what to do, but because you're seeing what happens when I do what I do, right? And maybe it'll give hope to somebody. Maybe it'll give them some ideas and something they can try different. Or maybe it'll tell them they're doing everything right and they need to keep going. You know, hey Blue. They have poop encrusted on their behind now. That's disgusting. You like that grass? You guys love the Bermuda grass. And I like how they eat it too. Like if you look at how they eat it, they cut it down, but not too far. They leave plenty on the ground, you know. All right, I'll be signing off, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.